language and communication in different species. Language is an essential form of communication. It is the reason why species survive. Without it, there would be no more interaction for telling about danger, mating, or protection of territory. These are basic and most primal interactions which are crucial for the survival of any living being. What about more complicated types of communication? Those types that actually involve the creation of community, sense of belonging, and emotional exchange with others. Such communication is considered to be present only in species with high intelligence. However, the possibility that not only humans have language and social structure was adopted quite recently. Multiple researchers had found many instances of different species communicating using language that is developed to the needs of the specific species within a group. Communication types can be categorized as vocal and nonverbal. These communication types are the most widespread in species. However, different environmental and evolutionary changes cause the skills to adapt to be more suitable in the specific habitat where species locate. So, how communication develops in different species? Each species adapts to the environment in which they live. So does their communication. Humans have one tube throat, which limits the amount of sounds we can produce at one moment, while birds have a Y-shaped throat that allows them to produce 4 sounds at once. Species that live in deep water where there is no or very little light also develop unique types of communication using bioluminescence to lure prey or attract a mate. Moreover, there is one particular species that stands out. Giant squids have an incredibly high level of intelligence and the ability to change color of their body and have full control over these changes. These animals travel in huge groups and use a specific color coding for communication and coordination between each other. Color change is not random and specific patterns which are similar to human language in the patterns of spelling words. So it can be said that giant squids use written language instead of vocal like other species. There are species that use echolocation and sound range and are more attuned to the reflections of the sound from the environment. One particular study is specifically focused on orcas' language. Their language isn't structured as human languages. So far, we have very limited understanding of their communication because of that difference. However, it is very easy to determine that intensity of the sound orcas communicate with depends on their current emotional state. Sounds are louder when they are excited. What role language plays in formation of community? Orcas, which are sometimes called killer whales, have well-developed language, which can also be divided into language groups. It is easy to determine that each group of killer whales has their own dialect that is passed on through generations. As a group, they are able to navigate, coordinate, and respond to different emotional levels of their group members. For example, for many years, scientists from different parts of the world have observed orcas' incredible ability to hunt in large groups. Orcas developed a strategy to push penguins and seals from large blocks of ice, where they are hiding, using huge waves that are created by synchronized swimming of orcas under the ice block. This couldn't be accomplished individually, and so orcas choose to hunt with their family to be more successful in their efforts. However, this creates another problem. Orcas outside of their family group, that can be quite large, can't communicate with each other as successfully as within the group. They, of course, use the same language type, but language development in generations in one family created multiple different dialects, so they mostly stay in one group for the rest of their life. Is communication possible between species? Can a language of other species be learned? Nonverbal communication is also one of the most significant parts of communication that rarely gets credited for its importance. Worth mentioning that there are facial expressions that are recognized worldwide in humans despite the difference in culture, language, and traditions. It is a well-known fact that dogs recognize facial expressions of their owners, but can a non-domestic animal with no connection to human understand how we feel simply by observing our behavior? Crows can recognize human facial expressions similarly as ornithologists recognize crows' emotions from their feather movement. Actually, not even scientists, but regular people can see the pattern in behavior of animals and determine the current emotional state, relying on the indirect signs that their body gives off. How do humans teach birds? Birds are incredible at mimicking sounds of different animals. But there is one species that most people don't pay too much attention to: crows. They are everywhere and are smarter than we think. Crows have complex society and customs in species. Crows that live in the cities watch people and recognize language. The phenomenon of cultural co-evolution has been discovered. They can easily see tourists in crowds because they speak different languages. Crows are extremely intelligent. They fake sounds of an urban city that they can hear often. There is multiple occasions of crows living in the cities mimicking sounds of car honk, telephone ringing, and people shouting. Crows recognize and remember people and have a limited understanding of human language. For example, this pet crow was never meant to be talking crow. Owners didn't purposefully teach this bird. However, the crow observed interactions between the main owner and her husband and quickly recognized that the main owner had a name that she could be called by. So the crow started to speak her name, perfectly mimicking her husband's voice to be fed or just to get attention. Later, the crow made a connection between cell phone and greeting "Allo." So can animals learn human languages and make a connection between phonetic sounds and meaning behind the words? Scientist Irene Maxine Pepperberg and her parrot named Alex have proven that it is indeed possible. Alex is a gray African parrot. He showed signs of making connections between objects and words in human language. And not only that, Alex was able to construct simple sentences from single words that he heard, while most pet parrots just repeated learned phrases without learning or understanding their actual meaning. Alex was a part of many different experiments conducted not only by Irene, but many other scientists. This significant part of this finding is that for the accuracy of those experiments, Irene wasn't present in the room, and Alex was still able to communicate with other people. This was needed to prove that Alex does indeed understand the interaction using language with someone who he isn't attached to emotionally. This experiment was later repeated and had even more mesmerizing results, although all parrots are different and some find playing more interesting than learning. It sounds quite unusual, but many animals understand the concept of name. Even crocodiles in sanctuaries distinguish when they are called individually by the names that they were given by humans and respond to them. Though some interactions between the species aren't that friendly. In conclusion, communication between species is indeed possible. Although all species have developed different means of communication in their species, learning is still possible. Maybe we should stop teaching our pet animals phrases for our own fun and start to learn their language instead.
Form all sorts of odd behaviors, much like we might do in front of the mirror to see what we look like when we do that new dance step, or when we just want to see how we look.